Hello guys, welcome back to Anime Moments. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Against the Gods based on novel. So let's start explanation. The starting time of the ranking tournament had already arrived, yet Absolute Monarch Sanctuary's seat was still empty. Feng Hongkong did not declare the start of the ranking tournament here and now, and instead stared at the sky above. If the other three sacred grounds came late, he could choose to not wait, but for Absolute Monarch Sanctuary, he had to wait. Without making Feng Hongkong wait for too long, an aged yet peaceful voice distantly came from the skies above. Sigh. This GU has come late due to affairs that had to be taken care of, and has made everyone wait for a long time. I'm ashamed, extremely ashamed. The voice was illusory and lingering, as if it came from the end of the horizon. At the same time, a gentle yet boundless aura descended from the sky, enveloping the entire arena. This aura that was rich and dense to the extreme, made one instantly think of the ocean, the cosmos, the abyss. Endlessly vast, majestic without limit. Monarch. In Yunche's mind, Jasmine's voice that carried a slight hint of surprise came. Yunche's mind instantly shook. Monarch. The person who has come was a monarch. Sacred ground letting a young hall master come was already extremely unusual. But why would they actually send a monarch? In the profound sky continent, divine profound realm was a myth-like existence, rumored to be an illusory realm that humans simply could not reach. Sovereign profound realm was then the highest peak of this world. A monarch was fully deserving as the greatest sovereign ruler in the entire profound sky continent. And monarchs also only exist within the sacred grounds and divine Phoenix Empire. Even in the sacred grounds and divine Phoenix Empire, they were exceedingly rare. At this 7-nation ranking tournament, Yunche could be considered as having finally widened his horizon at last. Even though they belonged to the same continent, Divine Phoenix Empire and Blue Wind Empire were like two entirely different worlds. At Blue Wind Nation, thrones were already the limit that could not be surpassed. But here, thrones were all over the place, overlords ran amok, and now even a monarch had actually appeared. A silhouette also slowly floated down from above. This was an elderly man in a light yellow robe with a horsetail whisk in hand. With white hair and brows, the air and disposition of a celestial, his face gentle, as though a Taoist celestial who was about to ascend to the heavens. When the other three sacred grounds people came, Feng Hongkong only stood up to greet. But this time, Feng Hongkong directly left his seat and greeted forward with hurried steps. Behind him, Feng Fei Yan and the crowd of elders also left their seats and followed in succession. Feng Hongkong came before the elderly man with quick steps and said as he saluted respectfully, Junior Feng Hongkong of Divine Phoenix Sect, greet Spiritual Master Gu Kang. Of the 4 great sacred grounds, Absolute Monarch was head. While the elderly man before him was a being of Grand Elder rank at Absolute Monarch Sanctuary. Even the Saint Emperor would need to pay him some respect. And since always, the interactions and communication between Divine Phoenix Sect and Absolute Monarch Sanctuary had been the closest. Even though it wasn't apparent, Divine Phoenix Sect indeed always had the intention to huddle close with the Absolute Monarch Sanctuary. Spiritual Master Gu Kang didn't have the slightest imposing manner nor arrogance as a Grand Elder of a sacred ground. With a swing of his horsetail brush, he returned a salutations and said while laughing, "This Gu has arrived late for reasons. I have truly committed offense, and I hope Phoenix Sect Master is magnanimous in forgiveness." Feng Hongkong said, "What are you saying, Spiritual Master Gutsang? Your elderly grace coming personally is already the greatest honor of our Divine Phoenix Sect." Oh. Junior recalls that Spiritual Master Gu Kang ought to have brought a disciple along. Why is it that? Ha ha. Spiritual Master Gu Kang laughed lightly. This Gu indeed had come bringing a disciple, only for him to witness the ranking tournament and explore within the primordial profound arc to learn through experience. I hadn't expected that he had a chance encounter with an acquainted person of olden days in this Divine Phoenix City, so he rushed this old man to come by myself, ha 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 ha. So that's how it was. To able to be taken in by Spiritual Master Gu Kang as the last disciple, your honored disciple must possess an extraordinary aptitude. Spiritual Master Gu Kang, please. Feng Hongkong extended his hand, gesturing at Absolute Monarch Sanctuary's seat. As Ji Yukang entered his seat, Ling Kuan, Yi Xinghan and even Ji Qianro all stood up and respectfully conducted a rite for juniors toward seniors in dead seriousness. This action invoked Yun Che's thoughts. Spiritual Master Ji Yukang's status at Absolute Monarch Sanctuary could be somewhat deduced from this. Every one of the 4 great sacred grounds were also all present now, as the site had also become entirely silent. It was finally time for this 7-nation ranking tournament to begin. Following a meaningful glance from Feng Hengkong, the great Phoenix Elder Feng Feiyan took off into the air and flew until he reached the arena's center. An awe-inspiring and resonant phoenix cry exuded from his body. Following that, flames that surged to the skies explosively burned up and shot up to until over 100 meters in height, making everyone's gaze fixedly focus onto him without exception. Feng Feiyan looked in all 4 directions as he spoke in a loud and clear voice. This humble one is Divine Phoenix Sect's head elder, Feng Feiyan, and it is an honor to meet heroes and young geniuses from all over the world. I represent Divine Phoenix Sect, and I thank all of the friends from faraway lands for visiting Phoenix City. This session is the 39th session ranking tournament of our Profound Sky 7 Nations, and will be hosted in its entirety by I, Feng Feiyan, and witnessed by the honored guests of the 4 sacred grounds. Held once every 25 years, the 7-nation ranking tournament is a battle for our Profound Sky 7 Nations young prodigies to contest in profound strength, spread their name through Profound Sky, and promote the prestige of their nations. What? It's actually personally hosted by the Great Elder. That's odd. Why would it be hosted by Great Elder? Feng Zhanyan said with a surprised expression. Clearly, he didn't know that Great Elder would personally host this ranking tournament beforehand. Even if someone told him beforehand, he probably wouldn't have believed it. Because in the past, the 7-nation ranking tournament was at most hosted by a low-rank elder. Could it be that there is something special about this ranking tournament? Feng Zhanyan said in a low voice. Other than the Grand Generations and Princess Snow, Feng Feiyan's status in Divine Phoenix Sect was almost second to only Feng Hengkong. Even Crown Prince Feng Shiming would need to act very respectfully in front of him. Letting him personally be the host of this 7-nation ranking tournament made even the few from the sacred grounds revealed slight surprise. The audiences in the seating area also held their breaths and looked at Feng Feiyan in a respectful and admiring manner. The voice resounding beside their ears, every word was thunderous. The Great Elder personally as host was an entirely different concept from normal elders or palace masters as host. Everyone had faintly noticed something odd from within. Sure enough, after Feng Feiyan finished reading the formal speech, HS suddenly looked up as his finger pointed toward the sky above. Everyone please look up. That's right, this enormous shadow blotting out the sky and sun is precisely that primordial profound arc which appears every 300 years, which harbors unknown mysteries. The primordial profound arc had always appeared at my Divine Phoenix City's skies, and throughout history only us Divine Phoenix Empire possessed the right of exploration as well. But this time, Sect Master's heart is generous and broad, and is willing to scale the primordial profound arc with friends of the 6 nations, and share the mysteries of primordial profound arc. In this session's ranking tournament, the top 3 in rankings may choose 3 people each to explore the primordial profound arc together. Even though it was top 3 in rankings, everyone knew that the first would unquestionably be Divine Phoenix Sect. Therefore, people of the 6 nations with the fortune to enter the primordial profound arc would at most be 6 people from 2 nations. However, Feng Feiyan's tone suddenly shifted, as he said, just a few days ago, my sect suddenly noticed that the profound seal at primordial profound arc's main doorway had actually loosened ahead of time, which also means that the profound arc's main doorway would open 4 days earlier than expected. The brows of all of the people from sacred grounds shifted. 4 days in advance? Which is to say, primordial profound arc will open as soon as tomorrow. Yi Xinghan said in a low voice. That should be so. No wonder this Feng Feiyan was made to personally host this ranking tournament. There was indeed unforeseen matter. Ling Kuan also spoke in a low voice. If my guesses are correct, this ranking tournament will be concluded as soon as possible. Feng Feiyan continued, My sect had initially planned to start to explore the primordial profound arc on the second day after ranking tournament's conclusion, yet this time, the primordial profound arc will open tomorrow in advance. The primordial profound arc would only open for 24 hours every single time. 24 hours in an entire 300 years, naturally, no time can be wasted. But the words spoken by my Divine Phoenix sect are of enormous weight, and we will absolutely not go back on them. Therefore, in order to explore the primordial profound arc tomorrow in collaboration, this session of ranking tournaments match schedule will also undoubtedly be compressed to a great degree. The top 3 would need to be decided by today. Clamor tilde. The moment Feng Fei Yan's words were spoken, the entire arena became turbulent. They all understood the words, the primordial profound arc would open ahead of time. And at the same time, this session of ranking tournament would be compressed into a single day. Which meant that it was to be concluded today. The match schedule would at least last for 5 days for every ranking tournament in the past, without any exception. Between the contending 70 tip-top young experts coming from the 7 nations, every single round would need to be fought in round robin. Previously, even 5 days of matches would be scheduled fully, and situations of the tournament's schedule extension would often happen. In the time as short as a day, it simply could not be done. The expressions of those participants, as well as each nation's emperor and hegemons, all changed greatly. 7-nation ranking tournament was a great matter of an entire country. The results of the rankings were connected to the position and prestige of the next 25 years of a nation. For this ranking tournament, every single nation could prepare with all their might several years ahead of time, and rare treasures accumulated for over 20 years would all be used without being stingy in the least. For those young participants, this ranking tournament was more so the highest stage for them to perform, the greatest chance to spread their name throughout the world. If the previously 5 days of match schedule were really to be condensed into a day, the time for them to perform would unquestionably be compressed by an entire 80%. This kind of discrepancy, how could they be willing and satisfied? And the spectators numbering more than 3 million who obtained the qualification to enter the arena through great pain, they originally would have enjoyed an entire 5 days of the Pinnacles battle, yet all of a sudden only 1 day was left. They naturally were extremely unthrilled as well. No wonder the Great Elder was needed to personally host. Yunche muttered to himself in a low voice, so it was to suppress the situation that may possibly happen with the awe of the Great Elder. If the match schedule is shrunk down to 1 day, as he muttered till here, his brows suddenly twitched as a feeling that was anything but reassuring emerged in his heart. The clamor suddenly exploding in the arena was entirely within Divine Phoenix sect's expectations. Feng Fei Yan's expression did not change, as his voice abruptly became louder by some. Even though the match schedule is forced to be compressed, there is no need for anyone to worry. This 7-nation ranking tournament would still be absolutely fair and square. So much that, it would be even more fair and square than the previous few dozen sessions. It will determine the ranking of strength of us profound Sky 7 nations in even less bias. Feng Fei Yan's words made everyone reveal a stupefied expression. The match schedule being compressed from 5 days to 1, yet it would be more fair. Feng Fei Yan continued, the former sessions of 7-nation ranking tournaments, 70 young prodigies battled in turns, contending against one another, and the end rankings were decided by the highest placement of each nation's contenders. However, this kind of ranking style emphasizes the strength of Apex profound practitioners. But in actuality, what could manifest a nation's strength the most ought to be the overall strength of a nation's participants. Thus, this session of ranking tournament would cancel the individual matches and change into team battles. In every single ranking match, every single profound practitioners of the two sides must all enter the stage. The arena was instantly filled with the sound of discussions, ceaselessly clamorous. Yunche's eyes stared wide, as he fixedly stared at Feng Fei Yan, whose expression was cold and stiff, and violently cursed. Feng Fei Yan ignored the clamor and continued, even though it is a team battle, it would still similarly be able to display every single person's strength, while also being able to fairly examine a nation's young generation's comprehensive level. At the same time, it would also adhere to the condition of compressing the competition schedule to a maximum degree without missing any bit of fairness. If we do it thusly, do our friends from the Six Nations have any objections? If there are any objections, feel free to speak up. Feng Fei Yan faced the Six Nations. Accurately speaking, he faced the seating area of the Five Nations with a blank face and calm voice. If they were confronted with such a drastic change of schedule, if the one before their eyes was a mere ordinary elder from Divine Phoenix sect, as emperor and hegemon level figures of the Six Nations, they might indeed object. But currently, the person talking to them was actually Divine Phoenix sect's great elder. One whose rank was higher than a Divine Phoenix prince. Even if all Six Nations emperors were added up together, his might, power, and name also did not fall short. Beneath Feng Fei Yan's gaze, the Six Nations emperors and hegemons all felt as though an iron plate was pressing down on their chest. Even breathing was extremely difficult. How could they possibly dare to say anything? About this matter, it was evident that Divine Phoenix sect had already one-sidedly made the decision, so how could they dare not agree? They all quickly nodded, expressing their agreement. Very good. Feng Fei Yan nodded. Since our friends from the Six Nations don't have any objections, then this year's ranking tournament competition shall be conducted thusly. The rules of the team battles are basically the same as individual battles, and are similarly round-robin. Every nation will battle with everyone from another nation and will advance through the ranking tournament through wins. Then, the two victorious nations will then fight one another to advance. Winner will be placed in front. In order to cut down the tournament schedule and lighten the consumption of every nation's participating profound practitioners, our Divine Phoenix sect will not be participating in the round-robin matches. The final victor of the matches will then be able to fight our Divine Phoenix sect's profound practitioners. If they win, they will then be this year's champion. In this way, within the round-robin matches, every nation's profound practitioners would only be required to fight 5 matches, for a total of 16 matches. 1 day of time is already enough. Feng Fei Yan's meaning was quite clear. Divine Phoenix sect was not participating in the round-robin, and would only fight with the strongest team of the Six Nations. For this point, Feng Fei Yan didn't ask whether or not the Six Nations had any objections, because it was basically not necessary. And no one from the Six Nations thought that this was not proper, or feel dissatisfied, because Divine Phoenix sect's level was one that the 6 other nations were fundamentally unable to contend against. With how terrifying Divine Phoenix sect was, even if every profound practitioner from the 6 nations were added up, they would still be easily suppressed into a dog by a profound practitioner from Divine Phoenix sect. After so many 7-nation ranking tournaments, in the other nations' eyes, they were all in fact 5-nation ranking tournaments, because Divine Phoenix was too strong and Blue Wind was too weak. Every time they fought, it was always to determine the ranking of the 5 nations. If they placed second, it was equivalent to placing first. And if they placed 6th, it was the same as being a shameful dead last. They absolutely did not dare have the delusion that they could defeat Divine Phoenix Empire, but at the same time, they would never condescend themselves to being on par with Blue Wind Nation. As for the other rules of the match, I'm assuming that there is no need for me to waste time to say what's more than necessary. Feng Fei Yan swept his gaze around as his tranquil gaze brought along a kind of intangible imposingness. The 7-nation ranking tournament was the most distinguished event for Profound Sky Continent's profound practitioning world. Every session was paid the greatest attention to. And such an unprecedented great change in schedule that hadn't even been informed beforehand, had actually just been decided on the spot with a few words. No one dared to object, and no one dared to reveal any discontentment. This was Divine Phoenix sect's completely overwhelming deterrence. Yo-yo tilde, this one had expected to see many days of matches, and now it only need a single day to be finished. This one's mood suddenly became so cheerful. MHMNN. Little Han Han, is your mood the same as this one? Ji Chinro narrowed his cherry flower eyes, and sent a flirtatious glance toward Yi Xinghan. Yi Xinghan's face distorted, as he said with a downcast voice, Ji Chinro. If you dare to speak with this young master again, this young master will kill you. Yo, as if frightened, Ji Chinro shrunk his neck down, and then, the expression in his gaze became both innocent and grievant from being wronged. Little Han Han, why would you so suddenly frightened at this one? You almost scared me stiff. If you suddenly frighten this one again, this one will get angry, okay tilde? Once this one becomes angry, maybe he would become a little devious, and cause you to no longer have any women to play with at night. With a tender and soft tone that was about to weep, Ji Qianro shot a slight glance with timid eyes at the two bewitching women glued by Yi Xinghan left and right side. Instantly, the two's body trembled at the same time, their pupils expanded as they projected an immensely deep fear. Because the moment they were touched by his gaze, that kind of terrifying feeling was as though their throats were being held within the poisonous fangs of a king cobra. Yi Xinghan knew the terror of this monster better than anyone else. Sealing up his mouth, he didn't speak anymore. I declare that Profound Sky Continent's 39th Seven-Nation Ranking Tournament has officially begun. Feng Feiyan's voice resounded through the arena, and also declared the start of this session's Seven-Nation Ranking Tournament. With a swing of his arm, a stroke of firelight flickered past. Instantly, an enormous flame profound stone was erected in the center of the arena. Looking at this profound stone, Yunche, who had the experience of Blue Wind Ranking Tournament, instantly understood what it was used for. Yunche extended his arms, and glanced at his palm. One after another of sceneries at Heavenly Sword Villa back then emerged in his mind. He muttered to himself in resentment, "Looks like I'll be mocked by the crowd again. Goddamn, my fate was decided to be mocked at by crowds again and again from the moment I was born." In every single session's Blue Wind Ranking Tournament, the profound strength assessment would always be an essential process. Seven-Nation Ranking Tournament was the same. Half of the profound strength assessment was to show off every single participant's profound strength level. After all, profound strength level basically divided one's true strength. The other half was to assess one's age. In all previous sessions of ranking tournaments, the participating profound practitioner's age cannot be more than 25 years old. If there are cases of excess age, the right to participate will be immediately taken back. Feng Feiyan slowly descended from the skies, landed by the profound assessment stone's side, and said in a loud voice, "Right now, I will be using the last session of Seven-Nation Ranking Tournament's ranking results as order, and read out the name of the 7 nations. Every nation's participants ought to enter the Phoenix stage with the participant emblem, declare their names, then take the assessment on profound strength and age." Navy Tide Nation. Feng Feiyan said that the ranking of the last Seven-Nation Ranking Tournament's placements were to be announced as order, but the first name he called was the second-place nation in the last session. On the surface, this may seem to be modestly putting Divine Phoenix Sect as the last one to enter the stage appropriate of a host. But the unspoken words, how couldn't it be that Divine Phoenix Empire was entirely disdainful in being mentioned on equal terms as the other 6 nations? In the last ranking tournament, Navy Tide placed second, first of the 6 nations. The moment the 3 words Navy Tide Nation fell, a ball of cold profound light suddenly shone at Navy Tide Nation's seating area, and drew 2 enormous words of Navy Tide in the skies above. 7 young men and 3 young women simultaneously took off into the air, and landed onto the Phoenix stage in the time the corner of their clothes fluttered. Instantly, a wave of cold energy undulated outwards like water ripples from above the Phoenix stage. Navy Tide Nation was located to the extreme north of Profound Sky, with cold skies and frozen lands all years round. And because of that, the profound practitioners over there basically all cultivate ice attribute profound arts. Of the 10 youths, the oldest looked to be around 25, the youngest looked to have just reached 20. The moment they entered the stage, the audiences behind the Navy Tide seating area instantly exploded like hot oil on a pan, roaring out waves of voices that shook the heaven and earth. Navy Tide! Navy Tide! Navy Tide! Go Navy Tide! Crush the 5 nations! What? That's the flower viewing prince, Han Ruyu. Number 1 of Navy Tide ranking tournament for 2 times. As expected, he came. Wow! It's flower viewing prince, my idol. Ah! So handsome! I'm about to faint, a few maniacally infatuated girls' screams while covering their face. The enormous waves of clamor were like the rolling thunder, quaking to the point of making Yunche's eardrums quiver. Jasmine's voice came from the side of his ear, 7 late-stage Sky Profound, and 2 half-step Emperor Profound. And 1 early-stage Emperor Profound. Similarly of the same younger generation and in the same piece of continent, in comparison, Blue Wind Nation really is much too inferior. That's something that cannot be helped either. Yunche said with indifference, Blue Wind Nation is the smallest, and also has the shortest history. Their accumulation is truly too shallow, so naturally there would be an enormous difference that cannot be filled up. Feng Wuhui of Navy Tide Nation's Snow Mountain sect has come forth to contend. The first young profound practitioner came forth, revealed his participant emblem while revealing his name and sect in a lofty manner. Then, he took a step forward, stood in front of Feng Feiyan, and pressed onto the profound assessment stone with his palm. The profound assessment stone flashed with a radiance, and following after, his physical age and profound strength were clearly displayed. 23 years old, Sky Profound Realm Level 8. The audiences of Navy Tide Nation instantly uttered out a cheer that jolted the skies. Being able to achieve such a profound strength level was above average even in the most apex domain of the Six Nations. Navy Tide Nation's profound practitioners came forth in succession. Their profound strength level wasn't in the slightest different than what Jasmine had said. 7 late-stage Sky Profounds, and 2 half-step Emperor Profounds. And at this time, the last profound practitioner of Navy Tide finally came forward. The other 9 profound practitioners all had lofty faces, only this person had on a calm expression from beginning to end, with a smile faintly hidden within. He looked to be extraordinarily young, his face was like white jade, his lips like vermilion cinnabar, and was a to-the-letter handsome man. In between his brows, there even carried a hint of eccentric aura enough to make women easily drown within it. He walked forward slowly and leisurely as if wandering in a yard. As he took his first step, Navy Tide's audience seats had already thoroughly exploded. Various kinds of exaggerated shouts, especially the screams from women, nearly ripped apart the Phoenix stage. Flower viewing prince? The hell is that? Yunche propped his chin as he heard such a title from the female screams. This title was simply conventional and lame to the point of being unbearable. This person is called Hanruyu, rumored to be the current #1 of Navy Tide's younger generation. Attending Navy Tide ranking tournament twice at age of 17 and 20, he got first in both times. His prestige at Navy Tide Nation could be said as the sun in the sky, and even Navy Tide Nation's ruler receives him as guest of highest honor. Even to the point where I had heard of his name. Feng Zhanyan curled the corner of his lips, as he said with great disdain, he's quite awe-inspiring at Navy Tide Nation, but if he comes to my Divine Phoenix sect, he'd only be so much, and probably can't be considered as reaching the average. With a smile on his face, Hanruyu extended his white jade-like hand and pressed onto the assessment stone. 23 years old, Emperor Profound Realm Level 2. Whoa-ho! The audiences of Navy Tide Nation went completely mad as the sounds of cheers turned from raging waves into the profound thunder of the 9th heaven, while the faces of other 5 nations' profound practitioners all slightly changed. What? This time, Navy Tide Nation actually had a throne. I had thought that our throne this time would certainly shock the entire arena, but I didn't expect that one would actually also appear in Navy Tide Nation. Looks like, if we go against Navy Tide Nation this time, it will be a tough battle again. However, we don't have any reason to lose either. Black Fiend Nation's Emperor spoke in an overcast tone. Not bad. Feng Henko, who had always been silent, nodded at this time. Seems like this time, Navy Tide Nation finally improved by a bit. Holy shit! He's actually a throne. Moreover, Emperor Profound Realm Level 2. Feng Zhanyan had astonishment all over his face. Thrones under 25 years old could actually also appear in the insignificant 6 nations. TSK, amazing, how rare. This kid called Hanruyu, not just Navy Tide this time, he has spread his name throughout the 6 nations. The second place of this ranking tournament may perhaps end up in Navy Tide Nation's hands yet again. Black Fiend Nation. Navy Tide Nation's profound practitioners were done, yet they didn't return to their seats, and instead directly entered Phoenix Stage's exclusive match preparation area. Feng Feiyan's shout once again sounded, as 10 young profound practitioners, all wearing black attire, jumped onto the Phoenix Stage. This time, Black Fiend Nation's audiences instantly exploded. The sound of screams they exuded wasn't any weaker than Blue Tide Nation's in the slightest. Wuhuahong of Black Fiend Nation's Yin Hell sect has come forth to contend. Lu Haoyan of Black Fiend Nation's Purple Fiend Isle has come forth to contend. Navy Tide Nation, Black Fiend Nation, Grand Azura Nation, Sunflower Dew Nation, Divine Incense Nation. The 5 nations of Profound Sky went up the Phoenix stage in the order of the last 7 nation ranking tournaments placements. In 15 minutes of time, all of the 5 nations' Profound practitioners were finished with their assessment and entered the match preparation area. What was left were only the 2 extremes: Divine Phoenix Empire and Blue Wind Nation. Author's note: Memo: Elementary Profound Realm, Nascent Profound Realm, True Profound Realm, Spirit Profound Realm, Earth Profound Realm, Sky Profound Realm, Emperor Profound Realm, Throne, Tyrant Profound Realm, Overlord, Sovereign Profound Realm, Monarch, Divine Profound Realm, Profound God. Yunche carefully looked at the ages and profound strength of the 5 nations' young generation's profound practitioners, then sighed in his heart. At this time, he was increasingly more and more aware of how great of a matter the 7-nation ranking tournament was, and why no one in Blue Wind Nation ever bothered to mention or even be interested in it. It was practically a disgraceful taboo. From beginning to end, even though the combined strength of Navy Tide, Black Fiend, Grand Azura, Sunflower Dew, and Divine Incense's profound practitioners were somewhat varied, the difference wasn't too large. The previous ranking tournament's number 2, Navy Tide, had come with an early-stage Throne, 2 half-step Emperor Profounds, and 7 late-stage Sky Profounds this time. As for Divine Incense Nation, which had been placed only above Blue Wind in the previous session's ranking tournament, last place of the 5 nations, they had brought a half-step Emperor Profound, 8 late-stage Sky Profounds, and a mid-stage Sky Profound. That kind of disparity truly couldn't be said to be large at all. As long as luck was on their side, there was a possibility for any nation to place second in the 7-nation ranking tournament. In comparison, only Blue Wind Nation was tragic beyond words. Aside from Xie Qingyu, within Blue Wind Nation's profound practitioners that were under 25 years of age, not even an early-stage Sky Profound realm could be found. Half-step Emperor Profound was merely the peak of those below 25 years of age within the 5 nations, yet it was the peak of Blue Wind Nation's entire profound practitioning world. In fact, Navy Tide Nation and Black Fiend Nation had even individually brought out a Throne below 25. What remained after the 5 nations were Blue Wind Nation and Divine Phoenix Nation. Feng Fei Yan swept a glance past the seating area, then said indifferently, "As everyone can see, it is not known why, but Blue Wind Nation is absent from this session's ranking tournament with not even a single sound of activity. HMPH, Blue Wind isn't great in the profound anyway, so whether or not they participate in this ranking tournament has absolutely no influence on the results of the rankings. Instead, this will cut down the matches, which is better than ever." The seating area immediately burst into roars of laughter. Everyone knew what sort of pitifully low and miserable existence Blue Wind Nation was within this 7-nation ranking tournament. The other 6 nations came to battle for prestige and glory, yet Blue Wind Nation only came every time to fill in the 7-nation number. And to this session, it seemed as though they didn't even have the courage and face to serve as a stopgap anymore. Inside the arena, there were few Blue Wind citizens, but it didn't mean that there were none. The words that came from the great Phoenix Elder completely humiliated them. But they could only tighten their fists, clench their teeth, and silently endure this humiliation with no face to speak out. TSK, Blue Wind Kid, there's still time for you to press your tail between your legs and run away. With just that measly strength of yours, if you really were to go up, and you're even going up there alone, let alone losing face, you'll even lose your butt, hey. Shit. Before Feng Zhanyan had even finished speaking, the Yunche beside him had already leapt up. After a few leaps, he directly dashed toward the Phoenix stage. Wait! Who said Blue Wind Nation had no participants? A thunderclap-like shout resounded through the arena. When the shout ended, Yunche had already executed his last jump. Within everyone's astonished gaze, he heavily landed on the Phoenix stage as the ground beneath him vibrated with noise. He looked at Feng Fei Yan with a calm yet proud expression and lifted his right hand to reveal the participant emblem imprinted with the words, "Blue Wind, Yunche of Blue Wind Nation has come forth to contend." Ah! Feng Shui involuntarily let out a soft cry. Shui, what's wrong? Feng Hongkong turned his head around lightning quick, as he asked in astonishment. Nothing. Feng Shui shook her head, her voice slightly quivering. It's just that I was thinking about something earlier, and was somewhat absent-minded, then suddenly saw someone jump onto the Phoenix stage. I was a bit startled. It's really nothing. Even though Feng Hongkong still had some doubts, he didn't inquire any further. At this time, Feng Shichen, who sat in the rear, suddenly stood up, and suddenly exclaimed, "Royal Father, that's him, is that Yun Che? He actually came." Feng Shiming said lowly, "Looks like he still is a bit knowledgeable, since he knows that no matter where he runs, he'll never be able to escape the palms of our hands." "That's him." Feng Hongkong's gaze slightly converged as he said faintly, "Him daring to come here today can be considered to be a bit courageous. Don't mind him, or else it'll affect the ranking tournament. Since he came, he shouldn't have the delusion of ever escaping." Feng Shui quietly listened in on their conversation, a mind a field of chaos. Feng Ling Yun. Yun Che. Big brother Yun, is Yun Che. Not Feng Ling Yun. How could this be? Crap. How could it be him? In a corner of the spectator seats, an extremely unremarkable person quivered a little with a face full of surprise when he saw Yun Che hop onto the Phoenix stage. As soon as he finished exclaiming in his heart, the youth sitting to his right, who looked to be around 17, stood up rapidly with a swoosh. He was so excited that his entire face was thoroughly red, both arms trembled as he shouted, "Boss! As expected, you came. I just knew that you'll come. I didn't come here in vain. I just knew that you wouldn't not come." Seeing how this youth acted, excited to the point that he almost stopped breathing, he nudged the youth's clothes and asked, "Hey, lil' bro, you know this person? Could it be that you're someone from Blue Wind Nation?" "Of course I know him," that youth said with a face full of excitement. "He's my boss, you know. The reason why I came here from so far away is just to watch his match." "He's your boss? Shit, such a coincidence. He's also my sworn big brother. The reason why I came here, it's also to come watch his match. Is that true?" the youth asked as he looked at him with a face full of suspicion. "What's your name?" "Lin Jie. Lin Jie of Blue Wind Nation's Heavenly Sword Villa," the youth said with pride. "Ling Jie? Who's Ling Yun to you?" "That's my big bro." "How do you know my big bro's name?" "Of course it was mentioned to me by Boss Yun." "You really know my boss? What a coincidence. Right, what's your name? Which nation are you from?" "Oh, my name's Yang Xiaohua, no home no country. I can tell at the first glance that I'm older than you. You can call me Big Bro Hua, Boss Hua, Old Hua. Any is fine." "Yang Xiaohua? Why do you have such a feminine name?" "Of course it's because I'm born handsome and elegant, so my name gotta be a bit elegant too. At least it's much better than your name without any skill involved." TCH. Yun Che's appearance undoubtedly became the entire arena's focal point. When the 5 nations' profound practitioners entered the stage previously, what had sounded were heaven-shaking cheers. But this time, it was the entire arena's discussions and laughter. Cheers were the only thing lacking. The other participants all came flying over, yet he actually came leaping over. It couldn't be that he hasn't even reached the sky profound realm, right? "You dumbass. He's from Blue Wind Nation. TSK, Blue Wind Nation, you know. Don't tell me that you've heard of someone below 25 in Blue Wind Nation above the sky profound? This kind is at most in the Earth profound realm. I remember in the previous 7-nation ranking tournament, that the highest level within Blue Wind Nation's participants was also Earth profound realm. In fact, they even had those in the Spirit profound realm, ha 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 ha. It makes me laugh whenever I recall that." "What? Someone from Blue Wind Nation actually came? Divine Phoenix Sect didn't even prepare Blue Wind Nation's seats. Clearly, they didn't even think that someone from Blue Wind Nation would come, yet this guy actually went up there by himself. TSK, profound strength at only the earth profound realm. He's not even at my level. Is he that desperate to lose all his face? You must not know this. In Blue Wind Nation, being at the earth profound realm under 25 in Blue Wind Nation is already the highest existence. I heard that the instructors in their imperial family's profound palace is only spirit profound realm. Earth profound realms could even be a palace chief at a branch profound palace. Shit. You serious? Then wouldn't I become a main branch palace chief if I go there? Ha 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 ha, eh? How come only one person came up? Don't tell me that Blue Wind Nation only brought one person. Ha 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 ha. It's simply funny enough to make one's head fall off from laughing. Even if Blue Wind Nation came here, they should at least bring 10 people. After all, the matches this time just happen to be team battles. This dad is gonna die from laughter. It's still good if they've come. With Blue Wind Nation here, this last place can't be snatched by anyone. Inside the incomparably large arena, every corner was filled with the sounds of wanton laughter and ridicule. In front of one that was only at the earth profound realm, yet was able to represent Blue Wind Nation in the 7-nation ranking tournament, a kind of intangible, higher form of superiority birthed within the hearts of every profound practitioner of the 6 nations. One after another, they looked at him with a kind of amused, pitying, and mocking gaze, so much that it seemed as though Yunche was on trial. Yunche was too familiar with this kind of scene. Back then, in the Blue Wind ranking tournament when he represented Blue Wind Profound Palace, he who had the lowest profound strength level was looked at with contempt and mockery by nearly everyone present. All kinds of voices and gazes spun all around him. It seemed as though this time was a repeat performance of what happened 2 years ago. Only, 2 years ago, all the sounds of taunting didn't affect him in the slightest, and this time, it didn't affect him at all either. Within the arena, although there were very few profound practitioners from Blue Wind Nation, it didn't mean that there were none. The reason why they came today was to watch Yunche's might. A month ago, when Yunche left Blue Wind Imperial City for Divine Phoenix Empire, Cam Wanhe spread the news of Yunche going to represent Blue Wind Nation in the 7-nation ranking tournament by himself to the practitioning world the very next day. He had originally told Yunche that if Blue Wind's profound practitioners were to know that he was going to participate in the 7-nation ranking tournament, it might even suddenly ignite hope. Hope that would wipe away their previous disgrace. Because Yunche had created miracle after impossible miracles in Blue Wind Nation. He had even become a legendary figure in the hearts of Blue Wind profound practitioners. Because if he came represent Blue Wind Nation in this competition, he would definitely amaze the world and wipe away all their previous shame. In this 1 month, many Blue Wind profound practitioners were filled with hope and zeal, coming to Divine Phoenix Empire from a great distance. Even though the difference between Blue Wind profound practitioners and the other 6 nations within the arena was large, it was not known how many more had come compared to the previous session. Faced with the entire audience's laughter and mockery, those sparse and scattered Blue Wind profound practitioners looked at Yunche. Some clenched their fists, some gritted inwardly, and some sneered, waiting for Yunche to beat them to a pulp. Some couldn't endure it any longer as they roared in a loud voice, "Shut the hell up! Not only is our Blue Wind Nation's Yunche the number 1 of the young generation, he's number 1 of the entire profound practitioning world. Even though he is only at the Earth Profound Realm, he could still fight against an Emperor Profound. Earth Profound Realm, fight an Emperor Profound? Bwahahaha. It was as if the surrounding audience heard the funniest joke in the world as they all erupted in wild laughter. Did this kid forget to take his medicine when he left home? Earth Profound fight an Emperor Profound? Ha 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 ha. The Blue Wind Profound practitioner who spoke was so mad that his face became thoroughly red. His companion pulled him in place and shook his head. Don't mind them. Wait until Yunche reveals his might, they'll naturally all shut their mouths. Yunche. This time, you have to seize glory for our Blue Wind in front of the entire world's outstanding warlords. So you Yunche? Feng Fei Yan sized him up. Without even waiting for his reply, he casually detected the presence of the Phoenix bloodline on Yunche's body, and immediately spoke, as expected. Does this mean that Blue Wind this time has only sent you alone? That's right. Yunche frankly answered calmly. Feng Fei Yan lowered his voice and said coldly, "Since you're here, then fight through this ranking tournament smoothly. After the conclusion of the ranking tournament, there will be someone who'll come to properly settle the matter about your Phoenix bloodline. However, if you'll allow yourself to die on this Phoenix stage, that's also not a bad choice. HMPH, then, go test your profound strength." The place where Yun Che stood was quite a distance from Feng Fei Yan, yet his huge aura continuously pressed down on Yun Che's body and soul. However, his expression was nevertheless a field of tranquility, without any signs of arghness at all. He didn't say anything else to Feng Fei Yan as he walked toward the profound assessment stone and placed his palm on its surface. 19 years old, Earth Profound Realm Level 10. The profound strength level displayed on the profound assessment stone had undoubtedly caused the entire audience to roar with laughter. Yun Che removed his hand from the profound assessment stone and leisurely walked to the match preparation area in the midst of a sky filled with laughter and mocking gazes. As the seated profound practitioners from the other 5 nations saw him approach, none did not reveal an extremely contemptuous expression. Within the disdain were even revulsion and pity. Perhaps they thought that having such a person as an opponent was an insult to their strength and reputation. Yun Che casually stopped at a corner. Not too far to his right were 10 of Navy-tied nations participating profound practitioners. One among them shot a glance at Yun Che, and beamed while speaking in a voice loud enough for Yun Che to hear. "No wonder I keep thinking that the name Yun Che was familiar. I suddenly remember now. It seems like in Blue Wind Nation's ranking tournament 2 years ago, the one who seized first place was this Yun Che. Another person said with a grin, TSK, 10th level of the Earth Profound Realm at 19 can indeed be considered as number 1 of Little Blue Wind Nation's young generation. HMPH. Han Ryu slightly slanted his eyes, faintly snorted from his nose. "It's only a pathetic little clown." He, junior brother Han is right. But this little clown is the impressive number 1 of Blue Wind Nation, you know. Ha 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 ha. Yun Che raised his eyes, indifferently swept a glance over those people, and then turned his head around, not bothering to look back a second time. "It's actually him." Ling Kuan looked at Yun Che with a thoughtful expression. "Oh. Elder Ling actually recognizes this Blue Wind commoner who can't even be considered trash?" Yi Xinghan asked with narrowed eyes. "This kid is not as simple as how he appears on the surface," Ling Kung answered. Back when he was in Heavenly Sword Villa, it was due to Yun Che's shocking mastery of the heavy sword that caused him to ask Yun Che to enter mighty Heavenly Sword region. Then, he perceived that he possessed the Phoenix bloodline, which naturally left a considerably deep impression on him. A few months ago, mighty Heavenly Sword region received news of Yun Sanghai's suicide, which automatically removed the seal on Heavenly Sword Villa's sword management terrace, and the fact that the person who had mistakenly been shut inside had also come out alive. He never thought that he would actually see Yun Che here. This little brother's obviously not that simple. Ji Qianrou's tender voice came from the side. He has such a pitiful cultivation level, yet did not have any change in expression beneath the great Phoenix Elder's imposing oppression. Look, not only is his cultivation level low, he's even here alone without even an escort, and is being mocked at by so many people. It's just too pitiful. But his deep expression has always been calm, making one feel fascinated. Ji Qianrou twirled his finger and slowly stuck out his tongue to lick his lips in a circle. If it's not a lot of nerve, then this little brother has many hidden depths. The main point is that, he matured quite attractively. Is this one's most favorite type? Ji Qianrou's posture and cheeks flushed with the color of peach blossoms made a chill go through Yi Xinghan. He nearly vomited out the food he had yesterday. After the 6 Nations was the ranking tournament's host, Profound Sky 7 Nations Senior Chief. Divine Phoenix Empire. Phoenix Disciples, enter the stage. Feng Fei Yan turned toward Divine Phoenix Empire's seats, and roared. As soon as Feng Fei Yan's voice fell, 10 streaks of human silhouettes soared from Divine Phoenix Empire's seating area and then became 10 Phoenix fire silhouettes. As the flames covered their entire bodies, they were like 10 dancing phoenixes dancing in midair, releasing a scorching and heavy mighty pressure. The cauterizing high temperature were like surging ocean waves that spread throughout the entire arena in the blink of an eye, making those who had relatively low profound strength feel as though their own bodies were about to ignite. Yet the emergence of Divine Phoenix sect's disciples didn't bring about such cheers like the ones of the prior 5 nations. As the host, naturally, the number of Divine Phoenix Empire's citizen was the greatest. But they all looked at the image of the phoenix dancing in midair with fervorous gazes, as none cheered uncontrollably. Because Divine Phoenix Empire was the eternal king, the overlord that would never be defeated. They simply didn't need to cheer, and more so didn't need to boost morale. Even though they were similarly participants of this ranking tournament, in the eyes of those from Divine Phoenix Empire, their true position was the judge participating amongst them. Phoenix flame burned in midair as 10 streaks of phoenix fire silhouettes meandered closer to the phoenix stage. Then, along with a long bird cry, they all landed. The instant they touched the phoenix stage, all the phoenix flame immediately extinguished, revealing 10 majestic young figures wearing fiery red phoenix robes. How the phoenix disciples came onto the phoenix stage, and the formless might that was naturally released from their bodies completely suppressed all of the previous 6 nations' disciples. The Phoenix disciples didn't make any mighty movements, didn't slovenly walk forward, and didn't even announce their names as they directly placed their palms on the profound assessment stone. The profound assessment stone lit up. What was different from before was that this time, not only did the profound assessment stone reveal the age of their bones and profound strength, even their names had appeared. Feng Fei Bai, 24 years old, Emperor Profound Realm Level 5. The entire arena was instantly filled with shocked cries. The first person that came forth to be assessed, his profound strength level had already entirely pressed above every profound practitioner of the 6 nations. But there were only shocked cries, and no cheers. Because the ones who uttered cries were all those from the 6 nations, while Divine Phoenix Empire's people were all calm. Because this kind of might, this degree of crushing oppression, simply couldn't be any more ordinary. And very soon, those of the 6 nations discovered, under extreme shock, that this Feng Fei Bai, whose strength was already extremely terrifying in their view and could be said as opposing the heavens, was actually merely the weakest of the 10 from Divine Phoenix Empire. Feng Lingyun, 23 years old, Emperor Profound Realm Level 6. The second one who came up was a vigorous-looking woman with short hair. When her age and profound strength was revealed, the entire audience cried in shock once again without question. Even Yun Che's brow severely jumped a little. Emperor Profound Realm Rank 6, a height equal to Ling Qianni. Not to mention that Ling Qianni was over 100 years old, he was more so publicly recognized as the #1 of Blue Wind's profound practitioning community. Yet this Feng Lingyun was only 23 years old. And that was only the tip-top of the Divine Phoenix Empire's younger generation. Moreover, she was a woman. A 23-year-old female disciple of the Divine Phoenix Empire in Blue Wind Nation was on equal terms with the strength of the #1. Such a difference between the sky and earth made Yun Che unable to help it but to lament once again. Feng Boyi, 25 years old, Emperor Profound Realm Level 6. Feng Lanshan, 24 years old, Emperor Profound Realm Level 6. Feng Mingshu, 23 years old, Emperor Profound Realm Level 6. Phoenix disciples came forward one by one. The words displayed on the assessment stone made the 6 nations' profound practitioners all flabbergasted, as their open jaws couldn't close for a long time. Naturally, they knew long ago that there was a considerable gap between the 6 nations and Divine Phoenix Empire. But only after personally seeing it today, did they understand how enormous this gap was. Amongst the 6 nations, a total of 2 thrones appeared. One Emperor Profound Realm Level 1, the other Emperor Profound Realm Level 2. These 2 thrones of 25 years of age could be said to be the greatest pride of Black Fiend Nation and Navy Tide Nation's profound practitioning circle in these several hundred years, and were even considered miracles. However, even the weakest of Divine Phoenix sect's participating disciples were nearly half a realm stronger than them. Moreover, it was half a realm at the Emperor Profound level. The difference was just like that of a candlelight and the moon, it simply couldn't be compared on equal terms. Aye. Is this even real? People of Divine Phoenix sect are all this powerful. Ling Jie's entire person was already stunned. As he stared at the profound strength levels that were emerging one by one on the profound assessment stone, he didn't dare to believe his eyes at all. These were all only Divine Phoenix sect's young disciples. Their profound strengths were actually no weaker than his grandfather Ling Qianni. His grandfather, who was publicly accepted as the #1 of Blue Wind, actually could only be compared to young disciples of not even 25 in Divine Phoenix sect. Such a huge disparity made it extremely difficult for Ling Jie to accept. Of course, I just knew that such a Blue Wind little bro like you would be startled. Hua Minghai had on an unsurprised expression as he said very slowly. TSK, strong nations such as Navy Tide and Black Fiend's gap with Divine Phoenix sect was already no less than that of heaven and earth, so about your Blue Wind, ho-hum. I heard that in your Blue Wind, Emperor Profound is already the pinnacle? But at Divine Phoenix sect, Emperor Profounds are simply as prevalent as dogs. Without entering Sky Profound at 18 and Emperor Profound before 35, they wouldn't even have the face to call themselves Phoenix disciples. Ling Jie intensely gulped down a mouthful of saliva and couldn't speak for quite a while. As he saw each and every one of those incomparably shocking profound strength levels, he, who previously had an enormous amount of confidence in Yun Che, now had his confidence collapsed for the most part. Half a year ago, only after being almost killed and joining forces with Xie Qingyu, did he finally defeat Ling Qianni, who was at the 6th level of the Emperor Profound realm. But now, these people sent out by Divine Phoenix sect were all strong beings at the level of his grandfather. While on the side of Blue Wind, there was only Yun Che alone. How the hell could this be played? Hua Minghai gave Ling Jie's stumped face a side glance and guessed what he was thinking right away. Damn. Kid, don't tell me you came here with the notion that Boss Yun would defeat Divine Phoenix sect. Did you eat too many brain-dead pills or something? Ling Jie scratched his head and said meekly, because Boss is powerful beyond limits, and even defeated my grandfather, so I had always thought that in the young generation of the entire continent, Boss should be unparalleled. I didn't expect that Divine Phoenix sect would actually be so powerful. This really is too ridiculous. How ridiculous? Hua Minghai had the impression of looking at an idiot in his eyes. You think that Divine Phoenix sect's 500 years of accumulation and the bloodline of a deity is good for nothing? Then I wouldn't fret to tell you, for just a mere 7-nation ranking tournament, Divine Phoenix sect doesn't need to be too serious at all. So these 10 people may not even be the strongest ones under 25. In any case, I don't believe that Divine Phoenix Empire would lay out the trump cards of their younger generation in an unnecessary situation just like this. Whatever, I reckon that if I keep on talking, that little heart of yours couldn't bear it anymore. Later, this big bro will cram a proverb into you, MN, called viewing the sky from the bottom of a well. Ling Jie's eyes stared unmovingly. He couldn't speak for a long time, and his self-confidence received an unprecedented blow. At Blue Wind Nation, he was also a prodigy whose name stirred the profound practitioning world and was publicly accepted to be able to surpass Ling Yun. But if he was placed before this Divine Phoenix sect, it would be simply too harsh to even look at. Episode 69 is end here. Next episode coming tomorrow. Thanks for watching.